hour. And I'm very happy to have a very special guest here in studio. The Commissioner of Education in Rhode Island, Dr. Ken Wagner, I believe is around the corner. So we're going to welcome him on. Thanks for coming on, Doctor. I appreciate it. This is the studio.
Yes, it's very impressive.
This is where the magic happens. And I saw you partake in a little bit of the food when you came in here, so glad that you could.
I had a hot pickle.
You had a hot pickle. How hot was it?
It was a hot pickle.
I feel like we're doing a little stand-up routine here, but glad you could come in and talk with us because you have on Monday a big address.
Yes.
State of Education.
Yeah. I'm required once a year to give a report to the Governor and the General Assembly, and we decided this year to shake it up a bit, and we're taking it out of the State House and we're going into a school, the Davies Career and Technical High School, and we're going to do a student showcase ahead of time, about 10 different student groups to tell us the amazing things they're doing in their schools. Then I'll give my remarks, and then we're going to have a student-run Q&A afterward.
Oh, fantastic. Is this the first time it's been brought sort of out of the State House, so to speak? Or
I think
under
so.
your tenure that you know of, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, how exciting. So do you know what the students will be presenting, or is it going to be a surprise?
No. Well, so my team did all the planning, but I haven't seen the questions. I said, I don't want to see the questions. So I want it to be genuine.
So the interaction with the students will be, but of course you know what your speech will be when you give your address.
Yes.
What are you really highlighting in terms of the state of education here in Rhode Island?
Yeah. So we're trying to spend a lot of time talking about how each kid is different. All of our students are different. They have their pathway through our system should be different too. It shouldn't be about the kid adapting to the system.
Mm-hmm.
It should be the system adapting to what the student needs. So we're going to talk a lot about building opportunities, an opportunity agenda, a lot about pathways, and how we make that happen through partnerships. Because no school can do it all by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They have to form creative partnerships.
And you talk about Davies, again, career tech, talking about different pathways for different students. Information that just came out today, the League of Charter Schools says that they've had record numbers of students on their list for public charter schools. What's your take on that? So many parents looking for options in the public charter school system. How does that fit into the broader education picture here?
Yeah, we can't ignore demand. There's thousands of students who want out of their district school. We can't ignore that. But I don't believe the answer is just to build a whole separate system either. We need to have systems that are integrated. Mm-hmm. And we introduced something last year to actually allow for choice between school district schools. So students, if they want something different, schools can start to specialize and kids can stay within the family, so to speak. And by us not doing that, we're basically saying any kid who wants something else, go to a charter school or go to a private school, but we can't accommodate you here. So I think it's important to have charters, mm-hmm. but I also think it's important to have a system of renewal and creativity within our district school system, and we're going to keep pushing on that issue.
And you talk about choice within the districts itself, and this was from last year. So explain the nuts and bolts, and has that been implemented? Are people taking advantage of this now yet?
No, it was, maybe it was a bad idea, or maybe it was an idea that just wasn't ready yet, but we proposed that if kids should get access to the neighborhood school first, but if there's a school that does something that they want that they don't get in the neighborhood school, and that other school has room, that they should be able to go to that other school.
So would this be through different towns?
Yeah.
So if you were in East Providence and wanted to go to a Barrington per se, do you think, how would that work? Again, this is something you propose. What if families, saw an East Greenwich or a Barrington or a high-performing school, and a large number of families said, we want to send our kids to one of those schools, but not the one here for those reasons? Would that be possible?
Yes. And it wouldn't just be like perceptions of high-performing schools. It would be driven by creative programming for kids. You have students who get up in the morning and all they care about is the arts, or all they care about are languages or science or whatever. And schools, by trying to do all things for all kids all the time, we're pretending like kids are all the same, and they're not. So we're trying to create options for kids within the district system. And we have to figure out transportation stuff. Like, we still take a $15 cab ride, we turn it to a $500 school bus ride. It doesn't have to be that way. But it didn't work out, that's fine. But we are doing similar kinds of things in career and technical education programming. Mm-hmm. Any student in the state can go to any CTE program or center in the state, and in response to that dynamic, we're seeing an explosion of opportunities that are happening in CTE. It's really exciting. Biomedical engineering, healthcare services, computer programming, all of these programs are happening because they have to match what they offer to what people want.
And so let's talk a little bit, you're going to data education. Was that chosen for this particular reason, for the expansion of CTE?
Sure. We, in the governor's budget, is a funding for a Davies Advanced Manufacturing Center. really sending a powerful message to our business community, to our families, to our students that we're investing in today's advanced manufacturing in one of our state schools in Lincoln, and we wanted to showcase that investment.
Very good. So that's going to be Monday, the State of Education with Dr. Wagner here. But I want to talk with you as well. A lot of things going on in the department. The switch from park testing to MCAS, the decision to do that. So you talk about, looking at education here in the state and talking about how each kid's unique. How does that fit in the grand scheme of standardized testing then? If you have, kids with unique abilities, but yet there's standardized tests to sort of measure where they're at.
Sure.
How are the two rectified?
Yeah. To everyone, I say it's not about the test. Even the switch from PARCC to MCAS isn't about the test. It's not like one test was good and the other test was bad. It has to be focused on how do we improve teaching, how do we improve learning. The test is just a common measure that's common across school communities, because different communities have different standards for grades and courses and those kinds of things. So you do need a common measure. Okay. But that's just a minimal entry point. You really have to focus on improving teaching and learning. So moving from PARCC to MCAS isn't about the test, it's about the partnership that can bring. Massachusetts is a national leader in education, so we can partner with them, we can learn from them, they can learn from us. And at the high school level, College Board, the College Board tests, PSAT, SAT, make a lot of sense to kids and their families. They're going to want to take these tests for college purposes. They can get a twofer. They can take the test for college purposes and knock out the federal accountability requirement. We're just trying to do these kinds of common sense initiatives that make sense to people in communities. Not education wonks like me, but if I can explain something and say, look, Massachusetts is a leader, why don't we partner with them, we can learn from each other. People just say, wow, that makes sense. Or I say, hey, we're going to pay for the PSAT, SAT, why would we also offer the PARCC test? Why not just focus on the PSAT, SAT? And people say that makes sense.
And what do you have to say to folks that have some concern that, partnering with Mass has had great results, but then there's the folks that say, well, is that taking control away from the regional and the local town and school boards? I see that a lot in social media, that folks are concerned that it's a more regional approach. What would you say to that, with folks who have those concerns?
I just don't think it's a good use of our time to keep, we spent years talking about tests. We could have spent those years talking about teaching and how to support great teaching and learning and how to support great learning. So I want to shift the conversation. Let's just settle the test issue and let's focus on teaching and learning. Good tests look the same all across the country, all across Rhode Island and so on. But good teaching is something that we could spend a lot of time really refining.
So, talking about the test, and let's talk about Massachusetts, just want to ask you a couple questions. We had a former Massachusetts official in yesterday, Dr. Sandra Stotsky, who asked a couple of questions about
it.
She
hates the Common Core.
She's
hated the Common Core for years.
What do you say to folks? There's so many Common Core critics, and I know you want to focus on the teaching aspect of it. And there's just a lot of folks who just, they take their kids out from the testing, and they say, we just don't want to be part of this. What do you, again, say to those folks, again, even beyond from the testing perception, even Common Core?
Yeah. Again, if you take a common sense approach with people are smart. They can understand this. It's not about metal antennas on the head. It's not about controlling kids' minds or thoughts. It's about where do we want to get? And if we want to get to today's workplace or we want to get to today's colleges, we have to have a plan on how we get there, which means we have to have general expectations, 12th grade, 8th grade, 7th grade, 1st grade, and so on. Because if you don't have a roadmap, you never get where you need to get. That's all the standards are. They're grade level expectations. Making those standards, those grade level expectations come to life is what we do in schooling. That's what teachers sweat it out every day, and they love their kids and they make it happen. That's the creativity. The standards, it's just the general structure of how we're going to get from point A to point B. And people just, they make their career over opposing standards where they could invest their intelligence in how to improve teaching and learning.
But, we do see numbers that come out of some of the schools. Let's talk about Providence, for example. Central High School, 12% of 11th graders are proficient in math, 9% proficient in reading. I mean, here we are in 2017. How does it ever get made to work if we're looking at those numbers of proficiency as an inner city school in Providence?
Yeah, that's the work. That's what we should be talking about. And the new superintendent, Chris Marr, and the mayor, Mayor Alorza, they're doing a lot of work about how to bring instructional rigor to the classroom in a way that involves teachers, brings teachers into the conversation. So they're doing things like instructional rounds. They're unpacking the standards to make sure that their curriculum and instructional resources match the level of rigor that the standards require. I really believe, and they believe, that all of the talent that we need to solve the challenges that we have exists in our schools. We just need to bring good leadership to that work. We need to stop fighting about the tests and just start focusing on how to improve teaching and learning.
So you've got the State of Education this coming Monday, May 8th at Davies. Here we are in May, almost to the halfway point of the year. What else do you have on your plate moving forward for the rest of 2017?
So we're really focused on what we're calling this opportunity agenda, and how can we challenge school districts to see themselves not as a sole provider of educational services, but almost like a meeting place where opportunities and pathways happen, where it comes alive. And how can we be creative, entrepreneurial, nimble, to respond to what our kids want, what our families want, in a way that strengthens the district system. We're not about building parallel systems. We're actually trying to build a strong and a responsive system that prepares students for what they need. But that's going to require creativity. We're not going to be able to do education for the next 50 years in the way we did it for the past 50 years.
And what's the most important? Let's talk a little bit about the General Assembly and this agenda. What's your goal at the State House this year? What do you see as needed to improve education here in the state?
So I'm very focused on the Governor's Rhode Island Promise proposal. The Governor makes the economic case for why this makes sense. President Dooley at URI makes the higher education case for why this makes sense. For me, it's the K-12 reason, which is we have a promise with our kids, and the promise keeps changing. In the 19th century, we only guaranteed public education to 8th grade. 20th century, when we went to high school, because the economy changed, the world changed. What Governor Raimondo recognized is the economy changed again in the 21st century, the world changed again, so we need to upgrade our promise to kids. And we know that in today's economy, you need at least 2 years of post-secondary education to really have lifelong opportunities and thrive. So that's what it's about. It's about upgrading our promise to kids and using that promise. You do your work, we'll get you ready, we'll get you prepared. That's a big promise on our part, that we will get kids ready for college. And I look forward to getting that enacted and then living up to that commitment.
And how many conversations have you had with legislators about this? There have been obviously a number that are concerned about the cost with it. I mean, how much of your day is just having that one-on-one type of conversation saying, here's why I think this is important, ask the commissioner?
Yeah, the governor has her entire cabinet thinking about the connections between the higher ed work, the economic work, the workforce development work, and my work. And we're all reaching out to people to help answer questions. So we will talk to anyone and everyone who has questions about this proposal.
So that's the big one up at the State House. Any others that folks should be aware of? As you know, so much going on up there. A lot of focus, obviously, on big ticket items. You know, we look at the PASOX, we look at marijuana. We do know about the Promise Scholarship, but are there other segments that folks should be aware of that might not be getting the attention that you think they should know about?
The other thing I'll mention is there's a really important proposal around funding for students who are learning a second language, English language learners. And it really puts the question of language acquisition and what that means to us. And we tend to view kids who are learning a second language as somehow deficient. The truth is that I'm deficient because I'm not learning a second language. Students who are learning a second language, whether it's English, Spanish, Portuguese, Mandarin, whatever it might be, they have a leg up in the 21st century. Mm-hmm. And the governor has a proposal in her budget to make additional funding for the unique strategies that you need to bring to second language acquisition, make that a permanent part of the funding formula. And I think that's a really game-changing part of this year's legislative session.
Is that something you're going to talk about on Monday?
It's not a centerpiece of this particular speech because we're focused on other things, but it's something I've been talking with legislators about for the past several months.
So we'll expect to see that speech sent out on Monday when you're at Davies so we can share with folks here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
you should come.
I have it on the calendar.
Bring the hot pickles.
Bring the hot pickles. Bring the burgers and hot pickles. That's what's great about this studio. We have everything here that you need in downtown Providence. Dr. Wagner, I appreciate your coming in today.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best leading up to Monday. I'm sure we'll ask you lots more questions. Obviously, education is an issue that almost everyone does care about and should care about, and it was great to get your take on what's going on in the state here today. Have some more hot pickles. Dr. Ken Wagner, Commissioner of Education here in the state.